So here's the deal. Last week, I opened a box for questions on my Instagram related to macarons. And me and my team, we were really impressed by the huge amount of messages that we received. And I spent, I think, like 2 days answering and posting on stories, all of them. But many of the questions were related to ovens. So most of them people were asking like, Nat, which temperature and time are perfect for macarons? Which temperature should I start trying? Or is my oven appropriate to bake macarons? A specific oven? And I was like, I answer most of other questions related to meringue, egg whites, macaronage, and drying and smooth macarons and fillings and freezing and storing. But when we came to ovens, I was like, oh my God, I don't know even from where to start, because when we talk about ovens in the macaron process, it's a very huge topic. There's a lot to say, and especially it's not something that I can say the best temperature and timing is this one here, and is not the same for all ovens. And this is, I think this is the best advice I give to all of you, to you guys that are watching me right now. There's no perfect temperature or timing for all ovens. Each oven requires a different temperature and timing. And I think this is one of the reasons why a lot of people give up making macarons, because they don't want to test, they don't want to adjust themselves to the oven, to the scenario. And I think the most important is make a good macaronage, make a very stable meringue, make a good macaronage, pipe a few macarons and test to your oven. But before we start talking about ovens, I would like to say a few things. First of all, it's something that I miss saying on my stories on last week, is that it's a lot easier for me answer macarons questions when you guys make the same recipe as I do. Because sometimes a specific method or a specific recipe requires some different steps. Do you understand what I say? Please let me know if you didn't understand anything. Just message. Then Tomás and Pedro they are going to say your questions, okay, to me. So, for example, if you are making French method meringue, you will need to dry your macarons. So if I tell you there's no need to dry, there's no need to rest your macarons before you bake, this is something specific for the method I use. And this is really important. So it's a lot easier for me to help you guys if you make the same recipe as I do, because I know exactly when and how and why it went wrong. It's easier for me to help you guys. So I really prefer Italian method because it's the most strong and stable method of all of them. Since we add a hot syrup, we add straight and stability to the meringue. And once we make a very stable meringue, we have a more stable batter, a more stable macaronage, and a more stable product to go to the oven, to freeze, to fill. And this stability is something that we will have in all process. So if you would like to test the recipe I use, me and my team, we wrote an ebook where we put my best recipe ever, also a few tips and the methods, and one macaron filling. So it is available completely for free. And if you guys would like to test it, I really suggest to test this recipe, which was the best one I ever tried. Okay, so Talking about the way I do macarons, now we are going to talk about ovens. Like I said, my recipe, the recipe I use, there's no need to dry before baking. Why am I saying that? Because once you dry or rest them before baking, we change the different timing of the whole baking process. Okay, so if you make French meringue, you need to rest for 15 or 20 or 30 or 1 hour or 2 hours. You need to rest them. Once you make Italian meringue, the resting time is optional. So you can rest or you can skip this part. I really prefer skipping this part because it's not something nice. You start making a recipe and then you pipe them and then you set a timer for that recipe for you to be able to bake them, and then you start another one and then you make the macaronage and then you pipe and then you set another time and then you start another one, and it's a lot messy and it's very confusing to work like that. And once you make the non-resting macarons, you can produce a lot more macarons in one day. So it's really nice. So talking about Italian meringue and talking about the recipe I use, about oven, I was saying that there's no equation. É isso? I think it's equation. In Portuguese, it would be equação. There's no one specific time and temperature for all ovens. First of all, they are all different. We have different formats. Okay, Tom?
Mikael said, I have tried your ebook recipe, but I had to try them because when they didn't form fit in the oven. Also, I find it hard to make a stable meringue even though I wipe the egg whites for long.
Mikael?
Mikael.
So, Mikael, please let me know why your meringue wasn't stable. If you can describe me better, if they wasn't forming, they wasn't developing, if it was really liquid, please let me know more about that. Okay, so about ovens, we have those with gas, and they are usually they don't have a very specific temperature because they, how can I say that? Oscilla. What is his name in English? They don't keep the same temperature. The temperature balances a lot. I don't know how to say that in English, sorry. But it's not the same temperature all the time. And usually the gas ovens, they are not, they are too hot. Usually the minimum temperature is 180 or 200 Celsius degrees. A few of them are 160 Celsius degrees, and that's usually too much for macarons. I usually suggest you use between 100 Celsius degrees and 150 Celsius degrees. I don't suggest less than that, and I don't suggest more than that. But like I was saying, each oven is different. Okay, this is very, very important because sometimes we have the same brands, and once we use one oven and we adjust ourselves to that specific oven, but then we go to another city and we have the same brand, but the timing and temperature is a little bit different because sometimes they change. I usually say that each oven is like a human personality. Everyone is different. It's completely different. Sometimes we find people with similar personalities, but it's not something that we can say is the same for everyone. Everything is different. So The gas oven is a little bit more hard to succeed because we don't have a good, a specific temperature or a good heat distribution. Sometimes we have those electric ovens, but without fan. We can only adjust if we are going to use the top heat or top and bottom or only bottom heat, but it's usually that without fan. And then we have those electric with fan oven. And why a fan is good for macarons? Because the fan is going to share the heat more evenly, and this is very nice for macarons. I'm going to explain in a few moments why it is so important. But first, if you are watching this live right now and you are liking everything that I'm saying right now, tell your friends and message them and let them know that there's still time to join us in this live conversation, because after I finish what I want to say, I'm going to open for a few questions. Okay, so this is a very nice time. Thomas. Yes, and also Thomas is reminding me to tell you guys to give a like to this video. It's really important for us. One more thing, Thomas, please.
Mikhail answered, it was developing, but it stayed at a soft peak stage rather than a more stable and steep stage. And he said, I have a gas oven, so it's harder in my oven as it feels hot even on the lowest temperature.
Mm-hmm. So, Mikhail, I think this live is going to be for you. Okay. About your meringue first, because I don't want to go to this topic of meringue, but I would like to say a few things for you just to make sure that you're going to clear this. Okay? Once I started working with macarons and meringues and etc., I used to think that a good meringue is that one that is very stiffy and have these stiff peaks and is very I thought stability was related to a firm meringue, and I used to think that I need to whip as much time as I can to have a stable meringue, but this is not truth. Okay, this is something that we usually think, but this is not true. Sometimes we have a soft peak or medium. My meringue I usually make from soft to medium. Yes, medium, almost medium, but I really don't like a very, very stiff peak, because if we have a very stiff meringue, or if we have a meringue that we whipped for many, many times, for a lot of time, it's a kind of meringue that is that we think is stable because we see a stability, but inside of it is a meringue that the bones are so tight, so tight, so tight, that if we over whip a little bit, or if we overfold the macaronage a little bit, is going to lose. And the I don't know how to say that in English, os laços, as cadeias, bones. The bones are going to separate, and then we won't have the same stability. And also, a very stiff meringue is going to prison some large air bubbles, and sometimes you're going to end up with lopsided macarons or hollow macarons. Oh, so this is very, very important. I don't know exactly, because sometimes when we say soft peaks, it's not usually the same, because for me a soft peak may be different from what you think of soft peak. So I don't see it right now. If you want to show me a video, it's going to be easier for me. But if your meringue is too soft, is oozing out a lot, I really suggest you to make sure the stand mixer bowl is clean and it's out of grease. I suggest you to clean it with alcohol, and clean it with paper towel to make sure it's clean and dry enough, and your meringue is going to develop better. But talking about low fit, and I'm going to say a few things about that. It is really important. First of all, before we talk about ovens, I want to ask you guys something, and I'm not sure if you guys will know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyway, because have you guys ever think that macaron, in the macaron recipe, we don't have baking powder, we don't have baking soda, we don't have any special agent to make sure that the macaron is going to grow up? Like in a bread recipe, or in a cake recipe, or even in a pancake recipe or cupcake or anything, they all have baking soda, baking powder, but not in the macaron recipe. But even though it doesn't have this growing agent, the macaron rise in the oven, it develops feet in the oven. So do you guys have any idea how it grows in the oven? Even though they don't have anything inside of the batter? Dun, 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 dun.
Both of Duke cakes answered. As the top is dry, the air inside gets out, forming feet, I guess. We have a question from before.
Mas deixa eu terminar aqui que a gente... So this was a very nice guess. It's almost like that, but I'm going to be more specific. Okay? So, anyone else would like to say something? Understanding that is going to help you all to understand exactly what you should do to your oven, so your oven give the macaron what the macaron needs. This is really important, what the macaron needs. So, do we have any other guess? No? So, I'm going to say, sometimes it's hard for me to explain that in English. It's easier for me to understand in Portuguese, which is my first language.
Martina said, because of the air bubbles in macaronage.
Because of the air bubbles in macaronage. Yeah, too, Martina, for this as well. But, so, let's imagine another situation. So we are going to use that to understand what happens in the macaron batter, okay? Let's put water in a pan, in a small pan. So let's put almost on top of it, like as much as we can in this pan. If the water is at room temperature, the water will be calm there and is going to stay there. I don't know how to explain this in a nice way in English, but I will try my best. The water is there, okay? If you don't mix it, if you don't shake it, it's going to stay there. But once we put the same amount on the heat, and we start to add heat until this water starts to boil, this water is going to ooze out from the pan. It's going to have a lot of bubbles and is going to occupy a bigger space than you used to occupy, because all of the molecules, because all of the molecules are going to be more agitadas, excited, and they're going to be moving around, and you are going to need a bigger space for the same amount. Do you guys understand that? Now let's come back to macaron. All the liquid inside of the macaron batter is going to expand, like, como foi que tu falou agitado?
Agitated.
Agitated, and is going to expand, is going to dilate. I have no idea how to say, but all of the liquid inside of the macaron recipe is going to expand and occupy a bigger gap of space. And this is what happened in the macaron recipe. And what is the liquid part in the macaron recipe? In the egg whites. And it's similar to what happens on a choux pastry, which is that one that we make eclair and Carolina, I don't know how to translate that, but yeah, it's the same of choux pastry, which is the one that we make eclair. There's no growing agent inside of it, but it expands. So, thinking about that, for the macaron batter to be able to expand, we need to add a very specific amount of heat, right? If we add a lot of heat at once into the macaron disc, it's not going to rise properly. It's going to rise like this. Answer me, please. Which one of you have ever seen a cracked macaron? Please let me know. Do you know that one that they have a break on top of it? And it's similar to a bread, to those Italian bread that we cut the batter and it opens like this.
Ofudu cakes, please say your name. Said me, happened to me, Mikhail so many times, Martina, me almost every time.
Yeah.
And before, when you were explaining, Mikhail said the water evaporates and leaves the shell, making feet as it comes out of the sides? Question mark. I was trying to guess while you were explaining.
Please repeat.
Why the
Yes, but repeat what he said.
The water evaporates and lifts the shell, making feet as it comes out of the sides.
Mikhail, it's a perfect explanation. It's exactly what I was saying. Yes, the water evaporates and create those space into the macaron batter. But to get this water to evaporate on this specific gap of space, we need to add a very balanced heat. Once we add a very strong heat to the macaron batter, instead of developing like this, which is creating a macaron feet, it will rise like this. But thinking about that, this break on top of this crack on top of the macaron, it is the macaron foot. It's the same. But since you add a lot of heat at once, a very aggressive heat, instead of growing like that, it grows like that. So, thinking about that, once we have a lopsided macaron, which is, if you guys don't know what is lopsided macaron, it is that one that rises a feet only by one side, not the other. And it's usually caused as well by the meringue, but it might be caused by a problem of heat distribution. So instead of rising like this, it rises like this. Do you understand? So, thinking about everything that I've said until now, what causes a macaron without feet, considering all I've said? Da 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 da.
O Fuduki Cake said, my name is Mirai. Is that the correct pronunciation? I don't know.
Mirai, is that the correct pronunciation?
Martina said, I have oven with fan, but almost every time just some of them, 1 to 3 pieces crack. How is it possible?
So, did anyone answer what I asked about macarons without feet?
Nope.
No, not yet? So, I'm going to be the first. uh, since
Karim
Karim.
just said, not enough heat or macaronage too long. And Mirai said, when there's no feet, no enough liquid inside.
So, in this, yes, sometimes it's caused by a problem in the meringue, in the macaronage, but since we are talking about ovens, and this is the today's topic, once it doesn't have feet, it's usually because you didn't add heat enough to this liquid to expand and develop a heat. Okay, so if we are sure that our meringue is good and our macaronage is good, is in a perfect stage, a cracked shell is caused by a too high heat, and non-fit macaron is caused by too low heat, a heat that is too low. Okay, but we had one question here which was really important. That was in a tray you have, please correct me if I'm wrong, Thomas. In one tray we have lots of good macarons, but we have like 3 shells of cracked macarons. Is that it? It's really normal, and sometimes people see on our Instagram only perfect macarons, and they think, oh my god, all of the macarons that she take out of the oven, they are all perfect. But it happens because in a few spots of your oven, these spots are going to receive more heat than usual, and it's really normal. On my oven, I can't bake macarons on the first level, on the top level, and I have an oven, a very good oven with a very nice fan, and it's an amazing oven, but I can't bake on the first level. Why? Because there's a lot of heat on that level. So I usually use the two in the middle, and the bottom level. For me, it works better. And even like that, I usually have perfect macarons and one lopsided or one cracked, because on that spot the heat is higher than in the other. But one thing that you can do is to use double trays. Once you use double trays, the heat will share more evenly on all of the macarons pipe there. So it's something that I suggest you to do, okay, is using double trays to make sure the heat is going to get evenly in all of the macarons. But coming back to the explanation, now we know what causes the macaron development. So we are going to adjust what we have to that information. To rise evenly, the macaron need a specific temperature and a good heat distribution. A specific temperature because if we add too much, heat is going to crack. If we don't add enough, heat is not going to develop fit. Okay? And a good heat distribution to make sure all of the macarons in one tray, they are going to receive what they need evenly, tá? Okay? I'm switching to Portuguese. Sorry. So we need both things, specific temperature and good heat distribution. So Um, let's talk first about gas oven. Okay?
The question before the beginning, you kind of answered a little bit.
Okay.
Pratiksha, what happens if I bake macarons in a lower temperature? You kind of said doesn't develop
Yes.
things. Is there anything else that could happen?
Thomas just asked me, told me one of the questions, which was, what happens?
If I bake macarons in a lower temperature.
What happens if you bake macarons in a lower temperature? It depends on how low is it, because if it is lower than the macaron need, it's not going to develop fit. But if it is enough to create fit, but lower than the macaron really needs, it might create a very tiny fit. Sometimes when we have those kind of macarons that has a very tiny foot, it's usually caused by, talking only about ovens, it's usually caused by lower temperature.
Você vai falar agora de gas oven, né?
Gas oven, yes.
Martina just said, thanks for answering so passionately. In my opinion, it's impossible to bake macarons in gas oven. If anyone's success is a king/queen for me.
Martina, Pedro just told me what you wrote, and you're very funny. So, Martina, answering what you said, and also Mikael, and every one of you, just because Mikael told me that he has a gas oven. But guys, once I started to test the macaron recipe, it was like maybe 11 or 12 years ago, I'm not really sure. But I didn't have money to afford a nice oven. We only had my mom's oven, which was gas oven. The minimum temperature was like 180 or 200 Celsius degrees. And I was like, I want to make macarons. I need to succeed the macaron recipe, but this is the only oven that I have to test. So I need to adjust myself to that oven. And I tried many times, and I searched on Google how to make macarons, and I was like, okay, I need to succeed that. But once I failed, every time that I failed the macaron recipe, I had no idea if it was caused by the type of meringue that I've chosen, or because of the recipe that I picked to test, or because of the egg whites of the oven, or because of me. I had no idea. And I didn't have anyone to guide me to say, Natalia, it was caused by that reason. Next time you make it, make sure you do that, not that. I didn't have anyone to tell me that. So, to be honest, I really wanted to succeed the macaron recipe, and it was something personal, because someone that I used to care a lot, a French chef, he told me that I wasn't going to make it because I was a little girl from a small city, and he said something like, she's not going to make it. And I was really sad when I heard that, but it became personal, like I said, and I was like, I need to succeed the macaron recipe, and I'm going to succeed the macaron recipe. It doesn't matter what. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it right. But the only oven that I used to have, it was my mom's oven, a gas oven. So I tried like 18 times, like 18 times, and I succeeded on my 18th attempt. They weren't really nice, but they had feet, and the interior of the macaron recipe of the macaron was soft, and this is what I wanted. And once I succeeded, I tested many times to improve that macaron. So what I want to say to all of you is that it is possible to bake in a gas oven. It is possible. And once I succeeded the recipe, I started to make macarons to accept others. I don't know how to say that, but I used to bake at home and sell them. I used to have a few clients, and people started to request me for the macarons, and I used to sell them. So I started to sell a lot of macarons in a gas oven. And once I started to save money. I was saving money all the time to buy a better oven, and then like after 1 year or 1 year and a half, I buy a better oven, and then after 4 years I bought a better oven. And nowadays I have a fan oven, a good oven, like I said. But last year, me and my team, we decided to record my online class again from scratch. And we decided to bake macarons in a gas oven, in my gas oven at my kitchen, because I have my good oven and the gas oven. And we decided to make on that oven to show my students, to show my followers that it is possible to bake macarons in a gas oven. So this is what I did. After many, many years, I decided to make macarons on that oven. And last year, I made a very nice fit macaron on that oven. I was looking for my phone to show you guys the picture, but I'm going to post today on my Instagram, I promise, on my feed. Okay, just check there. It is possible to make. And since we're talking about gas oven, do you want to say something?
Yes. Michael said, but if you are to make it in a gas oven, I would say you have to let them dry and form a skin.
He also said before, answering Martina, that it's not impossible to make in a gas oven, and he also tried to make 18, 19 times before he succeeded. And when you said that you did 18 times, he asked me too.
Yes, very nice. So, Michael, about the dry macarons before baking in the gas oven, I did it without drying. I just piped and baked the macarons. But to succeed that, first of all, you need to, what is the lower temperature in your oven? If it is 200 Celsius degrees or 180 or 160, maybe it is too high for macarons. So I really suggest that you put in the minimal temperature, like first of all, turn on your oven on minimal temperature, and instead of closing the door's oven like completely, put something in the door to avoid it to close it like all of the door. Like this is your oven and this is the door of your oven. I suggest you to put something like this in your door's oven to make sure it doesn't close like this. To make sure your oven is not going to close completely, because once it is a little bit open, the heat inside is going to come out a little bit and is going to be colder inside than it should be, than the minimal temperature tells you that it's going to be. But Natalia, how can I know that the temperature inside is going to be right or good for my macarons? I really don't suggest you to buy oven temperature. Natalia, why you don't suggest us to buy an oven temperature, because even if you find a good temperature inside, how can you possibly know that the temperature that you put minimal is going to be the temperature inside? It's not something that it is related one to other. I really suggest you to use your own macaron to make sure it is in the right temperature or not. For example, I suggest you to put on minimum and I really suggest you to use a wooden spoon, okay? On the door of your oven. So let's say that I put the wooden spoon in that position, and I put the macaron on the level inside of the oven, but all of them cracked. Remembering what I said previously, cracked macaron are usually caused by too high temperature, right? So I really suggest you to put the wooden spoon in a lower position to make sure it is going to be more open. Can you see? If you have a bigger gap, you are going to have a colder temperature inside of the oven. But not. When I did that, my macarons didn't even rise a feet. So I suggest you to put in between, something between. The first one of cracked macaron and the second one with no non-fit macaron. Once you have the perfect, how can I say, the perfect spot for the wooden spoon, you can make a mark. I did that on my mom's oven. She doesn't know about that until today, but I got those. Como é a caneta permanente?
Marker.
Those permanent marker, and I make a dot here, because if I put in the oven the minimal temperature and the wooden spoon on specifically that spot, I knew my macaron would turn out fine. But only finding a good temperature to make macarons in a gas oven is not everything that the macarons needs. Like I said, they also need a good heat distribution. So for that, I really suggest you to use double trays or 3 trays, one on top of the other. And what is the double tray going to do to your macarons? For example, you have the gas oven, and we have uma placa. De metal.
Plate.
A plate.
Metal plate.
Guys, I've been teaching only in Portuguese in the last like 8 months, so I forgot the names in English, but I will try my best, and let me know if you guys don't understand, okay? So let's imagine a gas oven, okay? We have the flame here, and right on top of the flame, okay, the gas, and then we turn on and we have the flame, but right on top of the flame we have the bottom of our oven, which is made of something that passes the heat up to strongly, algo condutor. Conductor. For example, usually the bottom of the oven is made with metal, which is something that shares the heat very easily. It's different, for example, than than wood. Deu para entender isso?
Yes, the
Yes.
wood doesn't share heat. Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't share heat. But in the oven, the bottom is made of something that is going to pass the heat easily up. Once we use double trays on the bottom of our oven, the flame is going to heat the bottom of the oven, and then the first tray, and then the second tray, and then the tray with the macarons. It's like we are creating obstacles to the heat to first spread out on the tray and then come to the next level. Please let me know if you guys understood that, but because this is very, very important. It's the best way to adjust the heat to your macarons is using double trays. And Mikael, last year when I made macarons in a gas oven, I put on the minimum. The minimum on the oven was 160, so I didn't need to put a wooden spoon on the door. But I leave that temperature of 160 without the wooden spoon, all completely closed. But I put 2 trays on the bottom of the macaron, 2 trays on the first level in the middle rack, okay, with the macaron, and 2 trays on top of them on the second rack, like that. Why? Because I started to see that the heat was very aggressive from down and also from the top. And my macarons started to crack, even putting a lot of trays on the bottom of it. So I put double trays on bottom, double trays on top, and then the macarons on the middle. What I want to say with all of that is that it is possible to bake macarons on a home oven, on a gas oven. It's not something that I really suggest you to spend all your life baking macarons on that kind of oven, because once you have electric or fan oven, you will be making macarons more easily. You will spend less time baking macarons. And something nice about macarons is that they are very profitable. So it's easier to save money selling macarons or making macarons than any other sweet, any other pastry. But it is possible and you can achieve a very nice result baking macarons on a gas oven, okay? So, talking about fan oven and electric oven, if your oven doesn't have a fan, I really suggest you to use only the bottom heat, not the top. Top is usually too aggressive for macarons. And even if you have electric oven or if you have a fan oven, I really suggest you to test double trays, because double trays is going to avoid many problems and is going to make that your macaron food develops more evenly and better, and you are going to get a very nice result. If you have the kind of oven that you, what time is it?
São 7 para as 3.
Oh my god. Really? We just started. I wish I could spend like one whole day with you guys talking about macarons oven, because there's a lot of things to say. But just to make sure I say everything, the fan the fan, how can I say that? The fan should share the heat more evenly, but sometimes we doesn't have, even with the fan, a very heat distribution. So I really suggest you to use double trays. Oh, okay, I just remember what I was saying. I would like you guys to write 3 temperatures for you guys to test and adjust yourself to these temperatures and make sure you decide which one it is better in your oven. First of all, 114 Celsius degrees for like 24 minutes, maybe more. Then 120 Celsius degrees for like 22 minutes. 135 Celsius degrees for like 15 minutes, and 145 Celsius degrees for like 11 minutes or 12 minutes. How we can know that the macaron is nice, is good, so we can remove from the oven. The first thing that your macaron is going to do in the oven is to create a fit. Once it creates a fit, it is going to dry a little bit. It's going to get firm. If you remove, if your macaron just create a fit and you remove from the oven, it will shrink a little bit. So my suggestion is create the fit, wait 2 minutes, 3 minutes more, open the oven, touch the dome of the macaron. If it doesn't move, you can remove. But not, I waited until it cools completely, but my macaron are sticking into the mat. You can put 1 more minute in the oven. Okay, it is fine. 1 more minute, 2 more minutes. Just make sure you don't dry it too much, okay? Something else that I would like to say is, this is how you know it is. It's something about oven that I would like to say. Oh, I remember. Yeah, great. Something very nice that I suggest to my students is that you make the macaronage, put straight to the piping bag with a tip, close, and then pipe only 6 shells, and then make your ovens test. Why, Natalia? Because you are not going to waste the whole batter in one single test. So make the macaronage, put into the piping bag, pipe only 6 macaron shells and test. This batter can wait 30 to 40 minutes, and you are going to have plenty of time to make like 3 tests or 4 tests, because as soon as you make that the macaron crack, you don't need to wait until it bakes completely. Just remove from the oven and try another test. This is going to help you all, okay? So guys, I have a lot of things to say about ovens, because I've tested many different things and many different stages in different ovens, and it's a very, like I said, it's a very wide subject and wide topic. If you guys want to learn more about macarons, learn specifically how I bake them, how I correct mistakes about all process, not only oven. I recorded how I bake my macarons, and also the explanation part, because my online class is divided in recipe but also theory, and it's really important because for me the most important is to understand what macarons need. This is the most important. Once you understand, you can apply these things in many ovens, and you are going to adjust yourself, and every test you do, you are going to increase your knowledge instead of throwing recipes away without knowing what you did wrong. So I usually talk about my online class because I know how it can help all of you, because I have like thousands of students, and I saw all of them developing the macaron skills in all over the world. So this is why I believe so strongly in the class. Okay, so like I said, we have the free ebook that you can download, and you can test the recipe I use. You can apply all of these tips that I said in this live related to ovens. If you would like to join, to be my student, it will be my pleasure to assist you in this macaron world. And I really suggest you to stay tuned on my Instagram, because every week I share something nice and different there. And also I have a broadcast list, before I forget saying that, which is totally for free. And we use the app WhatsApp to share with the participants something nice all once a week. Okay, so I need to go, unfortunately. I need to start the Portuguese live. Truly, I really, really hope that this live help you guys with something that you guys are more motivated to bake macarons. It doesn't matter which recipe you use, it doesn't matter what you do with method, if you are my student or not, if you test my recipe or not. Make sure you do not giving up. Like Mikael said, you also try the recipe 18 times, and it's a personal reward when we succeed the macaron recipe. So this is priceless. We are a very small group of people in all world that make macarons. Not anyone make macarons. So we need to take care of that. So if you have any other questions, being my student or not being my student, please let me know, direct message me, and it will be my pleasure to help you guys. Okay? Thank you so much for being here. Bye.